And now I have started the recording. And welcome, Sylvie and Thomas.
Thank you.
Lovely to have you
Thank
here.
Happy to be here.
Yeah. So a lot of us were really interested to hear how your family deals with money, because it sounds like a really great way to deal with money. And I'm just delighted to have you both here. We thought maybe we can record this bit of conversation, and then maybe we can put it up for everybody to have a chance to look at it, and then maybe we can have another session where people can ask questions or bring their own experiences and brainstorm and think about how we can all join in on this beautiful idea. So I don't know, do you want to tell us a little bit about what is it that everyone's finding so interesting about the way your family deals with money?
Well, I think, and Thomas, you can jump in at any time. I see you're muted right now, but feel free to jump in at any time.
Yeah, for now I'm just listening.
Okay, sounds good. It started when I guess we realized, my husband and I, that kids were not going to learn about money if we're going to hide it from them. So pretty early on, we involved them in our budget decisions for the household. That was really important because we live on a one-income household. And so we had to make a lot of choices. I think everybody has to make choices when it comes to spendings, right? So we started bringing in the budget conversation in our weekly meetings, I think back when our youngest was 3 years old.
Okay.
So our oldest was maybe 6.5.
Okay.
Just inviting the kids to join in on the conversation. And some weeks they would join and some other weeks they wouldn't. But it got them used to thinking about, how we can be intentional with how we spend our money.
Right.
And make the best choices for what we need as a family. Which in turn also gives us opportunity to support our community better, to help, someone in need, or to participate in activities that we wouldn't otherwise be able to. So the way we implemented that is basically we have a big wall in our home that we call the wall of ideas, and that wall is kind of a recipient for all the ideas that can come in and come out of our minds as a family. And what we do is we use post-it notes and pen basically and we write down things that we would like to do, that we would like to make, things we want to participate in, and also any kind of purchase we want to make, whether it's for the household, right now we need a weed whacker, and we've needed a weed whacker for probably over a year, but we still don't have it. So that post-it note is still on the wall of ideas. But it can be things like somebody needing fabric for a project, or somebody wanting to buy a book, or things like that. So everybody's welcome to put post-it notes on the wall, and at the weekly meeting, we basically discuss these items together, and then we try to figure out what everybody's in agreement with going forward with, and what doesn't make sense for our current season in life, right? But then what we do is that once everybody says, let's say, yes, I would love for Thomas to get that knife he's been dreaming of. We'll talk more about the knife, Thomas. Then we don't go ahead and do the purchase right there and then. We give ourselves an extra week to really let it settle and really make sure we're not buying stuff impulsively. And that 1 week pacing sometimes turns into many more weeks. The 1 week is a minimum amount of time that we give ourselves, but it happens a lot of times that it turns into longer weeks, because what happens is that we start reconsidering whether or not we really want that item, for one. whether it's going to improve our quality of life in some way. But also, we start looking and doing more research on what specific item we want. Like if it's a pocket knife, and maybe Thomas, you want to share that example of your
I'm
pocket
curious
knife.
to know what's this knife you've been dreaming of? If you want to share.
Yeah, sorry, my phone was in my pocket. I couldn't unmute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was going to get a pocket knife, but because of that 1 week thing, I started thinking about getting a different kind of knife, or like, you know, looking at different models of that type of knife and stuff.
Right.
And because of that, I ended up just settling with a Swiss knife that we already have.
Okay. Huh.
So let me tell more about that if you don't
So
mind, Thomas.
Yeah.
So you were thinking of a different kind of knife, like butterfly knife or what, and then going through that process, then you realized you already had something that would do the job.
Yes, exactly.
Basically. But I think what I found beautiful in that process is that he ended up doing a ton of research on different types of blades, different type of steel, the quality of steel based on where it's manufactured, like different quality of materials, and diving into how blades are made and the processes for making blades, and also the legality of carrying a knife.
Yes.
I remember you talking about that, Thomas, like
Yes.
depending on the length, right, of the knife. It's
Yeah,
either...
so that's mainly for switchblade knives that have a either a locking mechanism or a spring to activate it. It cannot be more than 3 inches, otherwise that would be illegal
Sure.
in
Okay.
Michigan.
Okay. So they really got quite a big safety concern going on there.
Right.
But it
Yeah.
sounds like then, through this whole process, you realized that you had something a lot better than you'd realized, maybe. Is that kind of what you're saying? Is it's like, oh, I didn't realize what we've got is this good.
Yeah, well, I didn't realize that what we had was what I wanted until I looked at the different knives for that week and realized, this might be better than buying a new knife.
Great. I love this. This is such a beautiful story. Because that's the thing as well, is I think we often in this world get stuck in just buying things because we buy things because it's nice to buy a thing, and don't always realize what have we already got. I love that. That's great. So what are some other examples of things you guys have decided to spend your money? When you have spent your money, what are some of the things that you did buy? I'm curious.
Do you want to share some of that, Thomas? Or do you want
I
me?
can't think of anything right now, so you can go first.
Okay, yeah, I know you're busy cooking. It's all good. Well, I think a lot of the things we end up buying are books. I would be lying if I said we didn't buy books. We probably buy about 50 books a year easily. But before buying a book, we also check whether or not it's available at the library, whether we can find it secondhand, whether our friend can lend it to us, or we look around. We don't just go and buy the book necessarily, but definitely we often agree on buying some books. And I think most of the things we end up buying are experiences, like going to visit a museum, going to the local farm that has all these fun activities, or taking a short trip to go see something that we've been dreaming to go see for a few months or a year or more. So we end up talking more about experiences. I think that's where we end up spending most of our spendings. And then,
so for example, on the topic of books, I was going to buy a book series that would have costed a lot, but I realized that my friend actually had all of the books in the series, so they could lend it to me instead.
Oh, perfect. I'm curious, what series is it? And it sounds like it must be a good one.
Yes, it's called Heartstopper.
Okay.
It's
Oh, is that's also that's also been made into a movie series or
uh
film series?
a show,
Yes, a
yeah.
show. Yeah, yeah. I think my youngest kid loves that show. I don't think they know that it's available in
Oh,
books.
really?
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, I personally like the
yeah.
books more.
Okay, I'll let them know that that's available. I don't know if they're aware of it or not. Okay, that's
Yep.
great. So I'm curious, have there been times when you guys have seriously disagreed about something, and then what happens? When somebody really wants to spend and other people don't want to spend it on that, and what happens then?
You want to talk about that, Thomas? No, it's okay. I'll take it. So it's all like basically long conversation when that happens and discussing, what are some ways that um, we can make it work for everybody. So if I don't know, if Thomas wants to take very expensive classes, which is something that has happened in the past, then someone else might feel like we're spending too much money on one singular person, for example, in our household. So we basically discuss how we can balance that. It doesn't have to be necessarily an equivalent amount of money, but maybe it's like spending more time doing an activity they really enjoy with me or their other parent, or just putting like things. I mean, it has happened that we were in complete disagreement and then we just put things on hold and the post-it sits there and it gets rediscussed over and over, and then sometimes nothing comes out of it. Like that weed whacker has been there for a year. We still haven't agreed on spending the $200 for it.
Sure.
So we are waiting on that, and in the meantime, we're finding other ways to live without that thing that we really want to make our life easier.
Some
So
of
we
the
do things more manually, for instance, or
some of the kids at Riverstone really like a machete. It's fun.
yeah,
You can
exactly.
get your
That's very fun.
frustration out.
That's true. So I think, yeah, we find other ways to deal without the item, or we find compromises that everybody can agree on.
But I also love that those compromises you're describing are not necessarily about money, that it's more about
No, they're
making
not.
sure everybody feels their life is rich rather than,
Exactly.
only in a
Absolutely.
financial sense.
Yeah.
Okay, that's lovely. I'm really loving this because it's a lot like the process that happens in a Sudbury setting with meeting. It's just that it's I've never come across a family that's doing it so thoroughly in this way as well, and I think that's really lovely to see how beautifully that can work. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I think it has made everybody more on board with, the decision processes that we have in general, and learning how to communicate better and hear each other's point of view, and then finding compromises that work for everyone. I mean, it's important in every aspect of life, but when the budget is so limited, you also have to find ways for that to work.
Yeah.
And not, I was never comfortable with saying I'm the parent, therefore I manage that and I decide how it's done. Like, this is not how we roll. So for the same reason, when we decided to sell our big house and move to a smaller place, we waited until we had unanimous agreement and everybody was on board. All the kids were okay with it. We were okay with it. Like, it was really intentional decision as a family, not just from the parents imposing it to the family.
That's wonderful. And I'm guessing that also creates more trust between everybody, because I think very often we might not be consciously aware that budget decisions are really values-based decisions. It's like, how much do I value this thing? But I think there's an awareness of that. So when the adults say, I can't or we can't afford it, what they're really saying is, I don't value that as much as you do. And then
Right.
it's difficult for the kids to know, is it that it's really impossible? There really isn't enough money? Or is it just that the adult does not value this as much as I do? Whereas when all
Right.
the
So,
numbers are there and it's all interactive, then it can be real. You know, it's like I can see that it is not realistic to go to Disneyland, for example. It's like there isn't literally enough money. It's not just a matter of values. So then that becomes
Right.
clear that when it's a matter of values, then you can talk it through and figure it out.
Yeah, and I think that also, so having full transparency also opens the door for more creativity on the part of everybody, because if they really, really want to do that thing that we can't afford, then they end up coming up with ideas to make money themselves. Like they've been coming up with businesses like left and right over the past few years to make a little bit of profit and figure out how to finance things. And like they help finance a lot of our choices because they're really engaged in it. They have full like control and participation in the decisions.
Nice.
So
Oh,
that's another side effect.
that's lovely. I'd love to just hear like one example of a business that they've run.
Thomas, you want to share an example? Are you available? Oh, all right.
The chef is busy.
Yes, I am.
Oh,
I
yes,
am.
okay.
Great.
Yeah, so one example would be my dog walking business that I ran with my sister for a little bit. Also, another business that I ran with my friend, which was just general house work and stuff, you know, like dog walking, weed pulling and stuff like that.
Nice. And
Yeah,
while we've got you on the camera, on the voice, I just want to know what you're cooking. So I've just been curious this whole
mac
time.
and cheese with taco meat.
Nice. Yummy. Okay. I thought this was going to be a fairly quick discussion, but it's just got so many different angles to it, doesn't it? It's actually very, very
Yeah, I'm probably
rich.
forgetting some of them, but that's okay. That's a good starting point, and then
Yeah.
we can have other people pitch in and give us some ideas for discussion.
Yeah. No, I think often that's exactly when it starts being interactive and people ask questions and what about this and what about that. Oh, back to the cooking though, to close. I'm curious, do you also decide on the ingredients you're going to buy? Is that part of the budgeting, or how does that work in terms of we really want to have certain foods?
Oh, yes, we have a food budget, obviously. And we have that food budget is separated in 3 categories right now. And I say right now because I want to make it clear that the way we handle the budget is very fluid and flexible, and we make it fit our needs rather than constraining ourselves into like a one fixed model. So if it needs to be modified, we modify it and we readjust. But right now we have what we call the staple food budget, like all the basic necessities that we buy on a weekly basis, and we usually make the meal plan together and then decide what ingredients we're going to use. That's done during the weekly meeting. And we have, at first it was taking a lot of time, but now that we have kind of a routine, it's a lot faster to say, okay, let's do this, that, and we know exactly what ingredients we're going to buy for each dish. So that's the main food spending is the staples. And then we have a teeny portion that we call food luxury, which is basically the things like that we would not buy out of necessity, but the kids really, really want sometimes, or I really want sometimes, not necessarily.
Yeah, so for example,
like
chips or
candy.
Candy or pastries or stuff like that.
Okay.
And then the third category is dining out, and dining out is usually when we go out to a restaurant for like a special occasion or something like that. So we have a budget that's reserved to that as well. So we make sure we don't spend all the money on dining out and then are out of money for the staples the rest of the month,
Great. And I remember one time, in fact, what I think sparked the idea to have this conversation, you were talking about the one day when somebody proposed getting ice cream.
Yes. I don't quite remember what that was about.
Yeah, I think somebody wanted ice cream and somebody else was, but we don't have any dining out budget.
I think that's you, Thomas, who said, yeah, we don't have any dining out budget for ice cream.
Yeah, I'm
so
usually the
we'll
one
have
to say
wait.
stuff like that.
Uh-huh.
So we'll have to wait. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. Oh, that's
We
great.
do wait if we want some dining out and we don't have the money, we just wait.
So I'm just curious, is Nutella a staple?
Yes, it is.
The best question of all, I love it.
There you go.
It is definitely a staple.
We are a French family, French
Yes.
American, so butter and Nutella are staples.
There we go. All right. I think this has been really lovely. Is there anything else that you want to add, or any advice that you've got for parents or kids who want to persuade their parents to do this, or any families that want to try it?
Not me right now.
Mm-hmm. Or
Can't
any
think of
last words
anything.
you want to say, or any last things you want to add before we close for this time? Nope. Everything? I think it's plenty. That was lovely.
I think it was great. Thank you so
Great.
much for joining, Thomas, and
Yeah,
thank you,
thank
Yana,
you.
for
I'm really glad you
hosting.
joined, and enjoy your dinner. It sounds like it's going to be yummy. And I look forward to seeing you again. So,
Yeah, thank you for inviting me.
yeah. Thank you. Okay.
Bye. Take
Bye-bye.
care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.